Hello everyone. As I promised, today we have the low elo tier list for supports. I have shortened the list a bit, so it's not going to be as long. Also, the explanations, if you want to see deep explanations of the placements, go to the other video. This one is going to be a bit more casual. I'm going to say this champ is strong because this, and that's it. I'm not going to think so much about some stuff. So, well, let's start. Alistar, I don't think it's. I don't think he changes much with Elo. I think he's as good as he's in Halo. I think he's a really easy to play support and really strong overall. If you need to engage and build at the same time, he's one of the best options. Of course, there are more specialized picks, but he's overall quite decent. Amumu is a bit stronger in low elo than he is in high elo, in my opinion. Mostly because he scales a bit better with items, and he's overall best when the enemy cannot dodge his Q. It's not that easy to dodge, but you will see that at high level people will dodge his Q more. Annie, similar case. I think she's as strong as in Halo. She's pretty easy to play, same as an Enchanter. Focus on your R. Her stun is really strong as a support. Her shield is quite decent in the early game. Again, pretty easy to play. Decent, solid, not that much. Ashe support though, I don't think she's good in low elo. I think most low elo players don't know how to correctly exploit her strengths. I do think that like the W spam build is like decent, even low elo, because low elo players can use her W perfectly fine. Her E also takes like some skill to use. I would say like maybe she is a bit better next patch, so I will put her in like lowest of B. She might be C. It depends on how much she gains from next season. Barn is another champ that it's much better in high elo, but he's still like viable in low elo. I would say he's like at the bottom of Fae. So to play Bard, you need to know how to roam, you need to know some level of wave management, and you need to understand like when to roam basically. The champ itself is not the hardest to play, also how to use his R, but champ itself is not the hardest to play. Mechanically he's like a single skill shot and out attacks, but of course his ult takes a lot of practice and decision making. I would say he's like, but he's super strong in Halo and he's still good even in low elo. Blitzcrank, quite strong in low elo. I don't know if he's stronger. I don't exactly remember where I placed him in the Halo. I think I put him in like the top of A. He will remain there. So Blitzcrank is pretty simple to use. It's just hit your Q, nothing else. But that Q works in all elos. I will go like on some other cases on why some champions are better in low elo. Blitzcrank is equally good in all elos, basically. Brand though, we go to S tier. So Brand is one of those super low elo skill champions. If you're a low elo player, I highly recommend Brand. Low elo players do not touch his skill shots. For Brand to be good, you need to hit most of his skill shots. They're not so hard to use, but they're quite easy to dodge. The thing is like low elo players don't dodge spells, especially like ADCs and supports. I mean like the range into range interaction is usually a bit more static, if it makes sense. He also scales quite well with gold, so the longer the game goes, the better for him. Not that good, as I said, in high elo, really strong in low elo. Highly recommend him for. So what I define low elo is mostly Emerald and below, I would say. Like Brand in Diamond is already like starts to struggle, I would say. Rom, he's pretty easy to use. Not really anything that makes him better in low elo than high elo. Nothing that makes him especially worse. The only thing you really need to know are his interactions with his E, so which projectiles it eats or whatnot. Well, it eats all projectiles, so just so you know, you can counter many ults with it. But I've seen like most players that played more than one Braum game that know that, so I don't think it takes as much skill as other stuff. Galio, similarly, so we're going to have a lot of 8 years, it seems. Again, a reasonable, good champion in low elo. Don't build him AP, build him tank. Even in low elo, tank is just better. Low elo players, the only like benefit is like they don't respect your W, your range overall. Like you might hit someone if you see. Usually that doesn't happen in Halo. And like long range, like in neutral, like you just run towards the enemy DC and you eat him. That doesn't happen in Halo. The only downside is his ultimate is really poorly used by low elo players. Sometimes it's not even like your fault, is your allies that don't know how to play with a Kali ult. Still something to take care of. Heimer, really strong in low elo too. But we'll still put him in A. So he's better than in high elo, mostly due to his E being not dodged by most low elo players. Most low elo players don't know how to deal with his turrets. And he's also a mage support that scales quite well with gold. Really strong in low elo. He might be S, depends on like the items. Actually, yeah, I will put him in S. He's going to be strong. I'm pretty sure of it. Hui, well, interesting thing about Hui, two things. First of all, he's going to get buffed. Riot has confirmed that he's going to get 3 more base armor for next patch before doing anything else. That's a decent buff. The other thing is Hui, both in mid lane and support, is not really high elo skill. Despite him being quite complex, it takes like he's an immobile mage. Immobile mages are naturally low elo skill. He scales quite hard. So the longer the game, the better he is. So despite his complexity, or like takes a decent amount of games to get used to, his win rate at least is the same in low elo than in high elo. With the buff, and with people getting more used to him, I would say he's Zoe in both low elo and like if you want to update the high elo, because the buff got announced yesterday, I think. Hui is going to be a viable support, even in low elo. Fiddle. So Fiddle is very strong in low elo, even as a support. Now, his ult takes some time. Like the things about Fiddle is like no super hard to use skill shot, like his Q and his W are not skill shots, and his ult is like this big skill shot, but you know. Vision management is the only thing low elo players are quite bad at him, so I personally think he's a bit worse. I think I put him in S. In high elo, I think he's a bit worse in low elo. Might be wrong, because again, he scales well hard and he's pretty easy to use, so he might be like bottom of S. Janna, well, I think Janna is almost as strong in low elo. The thing about Janna is that, similarly to Ashe, people don't know how to lane bully with her. You need to lane bully Janna is right now the best version of Janna. With either Hail of Blades or with Aerie, doesn't matter, you need to play her as a lane bully. Low elo players play her more like the shield bot Janna, basically. That's not as strong as it used to be. But Janna is overall quite overtuned and easy to use, so still one of their supports. Karma. So the thing about Karma is she doesn't scale as much as other enchanters. She's a bit more early game skilled. she's not really hard to play. I know that usually some people think she's hard. She's just the only hard thing about her is like if you're like 40 minutes into a game and you have like 1,000 CDR, yeah, maybe you start having to cast a lot of ults and it gets a bit trickier. Like her cooldowns are quite low and her APM gets a bit high, but I don't think she's like the hardest support in the world, so I still think she's reasonably decent in low elo. Leona is one of those champs that are stronger in low elo, mostly because low elo players don't respect her E, so like her engages. She's also one of the easiest supports to play, like engage supports. She's probably the second easiest, besides I think Maokai, who literally just press the button. And she's already quite strong, and I don't think she's going to be much weaker next patch. If I am wrong, I will update it, don't worry. But for now, I think she's at the top of S. Lulu, similar case to Karma, she's not easy on certain situations, but she's still easy to use. So like her skill floor is not that high. Her skill ceiling is high, and you know, it can take some time to master, but overall she's equally strong, or not so strong, so she's at the bottom of it. She's okay, basically. She has been earned for pro a long time ago. Her win rate is rather low. I don't think she's like the greatest support out there. Lux. So Lux is also one of those mages that get better with elo. With like low elo, is better in low elo. This is mostly because elo players won't dodge your Q. Your Q is not the only, but like the best way to guarantee an ult. And most of Lux damage is on her ult. The big part of damage is hit your Q, ER. Yeah, that doesn't happen as much in Halo. That's basically it. She's already quite strong, and she's going to be, she's going to get more gold next season. Scales quite hard. One of the most popular, if not right now, the most popular support in the game. Mostly because she's quite strong in low elo, pretty simple to use, and quite satisfying. Well, I recommend her. Maokai, as I did in the high low tier list, he's C tier. He is very easy to use, and I think he's going to be overpowered for the same reasons I said in the high low tier list. So yeah, if you play engage support or are open to some less popular picks, go for Maokai. You're not going to repent it. Milio, similarly, quite strong in low elo, mostly because he's pretty simple to use. People don't punish Milio in the early game in low elo, and you get time to scale. He's still like good in Halo, but I think he's a bit stronger in low elo, and as you said, the new items are really strong with him. Highly recommend him for newer enchanter players. Morgana. So Morgana is quite good in low elo. She's still mostly a counter pick support to engage support. I will not recommend to blind pick her, but I think she's overall much stronger in low elo, mostly due to her Q not being dodged by low elo players. Simple as that. It's like a good amount of power of Morgana is on her Q. Her Q is exponentially better against bad players. Quite easy. Nami. So I think Nami is equally strong in low and Halo. So she's easy to use, she scales, but she's not bad in the early game, so like it's not like our picks. But again, she's easy to use, and her Q is not dodged as much as in Halo. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's like Morgana Q or Lux Q, those spells are much slower. So it might be due to the animation or whatnot, but you might hit Nami Q in Halo. It happens more in low elo. But still a overall really good pick for low elo. Now the same as Halo, he's a bit overrated. I would still say he's decent. He is pretty easy to use, pretty straightforward, and generally a solid pick. I think he's still at the bottom of A because he's not just better than some of the others. Neeko is actually one of those mage supports that are better in high elo than in low elo, but she's still good in low elo. Like, she's strong and easy to use, but she's not. She's early game skewed, so the longer the game goes, she's a bit worse. She's still decent, but mostly she's strong due to being a good lane bully mage. And you're going to hit your skill shots if you're good, but so are you in Halo. Like, her Q is impossible to dodge, the first, and her E is hard to dodge, even in Halo. Overall, decent pick for low elo, but there are some better mages and lower ranks. Pantheon, I will say, I will make the same statement that I think is going to be good, mostly due to the system changes, lethality changes, and the new support passive. They're going to make him decent. I don't think he's going to be amazing, but I think he's going to be decent. Poppy, so the thing about Poppy is people in low elo don't respect her E. So you might get more stuns. Now, the most value out of Poppy support is on her W. Low elo players don't really have the reaction times for most of the engages. So if you're low elo, you're not reacting to a Rakan W or a Leona E. Well, maybe a Leona E, yes, but the faster engages, probably not. So, I personally think she's a bit better in Halo, but she's still completely fine in low elo. Pyke is another of those that are a bit better in Halo. The problem with Pyke in low elo, similar to other champs, is people don't know how to lane bully, and they don't know how to roam as well as Halo players. Pyke needs both of those things to succeed. I would say if you're getting to Emerald or Diamond, yeah, you're probably already good. That's an elo where I would recommend Pyke already. I would say if you're Silver, maybe play something more simple. Unless, of course, if you like Pyke. If you like Pyke, play Pyke. If you're I don't know what to play, what's strong in low elo, I think Leona is much stronger than Pyke in low elo. While in high elo, they're mostly the same. So yeah. Rakan, he's actually not so hard to play, so his skill floor is a bit low. He's still higher than the average, but he's still reasonable for any elo. His W is just a easy to hit skill shot, and the rest of his hit is a bit natural. I would say he also scales quite well, so I would say he's mostly the same in low elo. I think he's really strong. Rell, though, is one of those that are not as good in low elo, but I would still think she's viable. The thing about Rell is roaming is she has decent roaming, and she's a bit more organized, team fight oriented. So she's best when players are organized and are playing like a team, both your team and the enemy. So I would say she's not really better in Halo. Still decent. Renata is actually quite strong in low elo, mostly because people don't know how to. Some people straight up don't know what her R does. They don't dodge her R, they don't dodge her Q. they let her scale because she scales insanely well, but she's still like mechanically on the higher end, so she's not like super low elo skewed, but she's a bit better in low elo. Not by her kit itself, but how it interacts with the enemy. Senna is not as good in low elo, so similar to other champs I've said, people don't know how to bully. Senna is a decent lane bully. She scales, but not as much if you're not getting souls. She's also like an ADC support, which is on the average of supports mechanically quite hard. Like she's on the higher end of mechanically hard champions, supports specifically. So yeah, I think she's at the bottom of A or at the top of B. Serving, I would recommend her the same I did in low elo. In high elo, build her with enchanter items. Max W, she's still strong. Like she scales insanely well. Her kit overall is like, her R is rather easy to hit. Her E is better in low elo. I understand that most low elo players don't understand how to optimize her passive or her passives. Don't know how to lane bully as much. So Serving is not a lane bully if you're maxing W, but she's still, you can still have lane presence. That's it. So I think she's like elo neutral, basically. Shaco, one of those that I've said already, he's a bit stronger in low elo, mostly because other players don't respect your W. He's not hard to play. It's just like W the bushes and places where you might think the enemy is going to go. His E is targeted, pretty easy to play, not much else. Sona, one of those champions that scale quite hard. She's much better in low elo because she's like probably the easiest support in the game mechanic wise. She takes some like positioning, but it's a bit natural to do her auras. But mostly like the reason she's strong is low elo players don't punish her early game and they let her scale quite hard. But yeah. Soraka is mostly the same in non-elos, so I'll put her in Z. Soraka is not that mechanically easy, mostly because you need to be. She has a high APM. She's one of the highest APM enchanters. Her kit is like easy to understand and to use, but she's one of the highest APM supports, and she has a global ult. But she scales quite hard and like with game time, so her win rate is mostly I think elo neutral. The last time I checked at least, and I think overall she's really strong in any elo. She's going to be quite good. Swain is not that amazing even in low elo right now, but I would say he's still like good in low elo. Similar to our supports I talked about, he's worse in high elo because his CC is very easy to dodge by good players, which is his E. And if you don't hit your E, you can't hit your W. And if you don't hit your E, your Q, you're not going to be in range for his Q for max damage. All of his kit goes around his E, and good players dodge it. Low elo players don't. Play Swain support in low elo. Tam, don't really recommend him in low elo, but I would say he's still like similar as in high elo. He's pretty easy to play besides his R, which takes like coordination and such. Still, he scales quite hard and again easy to use. Talia, she's on the harder side to play, but she's still like mostly easy. She scales quite hard, so with the longer the game the better. And most bot players don't dodge her skill shots as much, so they don't dodge your E and your EW combos. You're mostly going to hit them in low elo if you're good. So I would say she's as good as in Halo. Taric is a very blind pick in low elo, I would say, so you don't get as punished in low elo for like being melee, basically a melee enchanter, sort of. His ult takes some time to like be good with it. I still think he's like reasonably strong in any elo. Well, I think I put him in the same place, on the top of A, sort of close to the bottom of S. So Teemo is actually a support that I did not place on the high elo tiers, because I don't think he's even worth mentioning in low elo, in high elo, sorry. While I think he's actually decent in low elo. I have seen low elo players play against Teemo support, and I'm like, damn, they do not know how to play against him. And then I check his win rate, and his win rate in low elo is actually decent. I think he's like an A tier, middle of A support. He's quite easy to use, and it's like Q the ADC, they won't hit you. Yay, win. Thresh is, over the years, has been made easier to play. Why I say this? So, not really much as just easier to play, so they made him scale quite well. They made him worse in the early game and scale harder, which is low elo skill. They made most of his strength regarding his Q, which most players can use correctly. Before, like, his W was much stronger. And I guess he was strong in the early game, which is a high elo skill. Right now I would say I still wouldn't recommend him in like as much in low elo, but I think he's viable. Yuumi is fine in low elo. She's extremely easy to play, but she's just weak on purpose. Basically, like Riot purposely make her weak, because she's like a problem when she's popular, a problem when she's good, when she's like the best option you can use. So yeah. Vel'Koz, I would say, is really strong in low elo. He's also strong in high elo. His kit takes practice, but is simple enough for the low elo player to use. He also scales quite well. He's going to get buff next patch. Yeah, I recommend him for low elo. Xerath is a bit stronger in low elo. In the high elo tier list, it was the other way around. Here, the thing about Xerath is low elo players don't dodge his skill shots, high elo players do. So he's balanced more around low elo than high elo. Vel'Koz is more neutral. Yeah, Xerath is a bit low elo skilled. I would say he's one of the best champions, best mages for low elo. Highly recommend him. Zac, as I said, he's a bit better in low elo, as I said in the other tier list. So the thing about Zac is low elo players do not respect his extremely predictable engages. What his Zac support does is he gets in a bush, is in the middle of the lane and engages. High elo players dodge it easily and punish him and kill him. Low elo players don't. He also scales quite hard, so you know, I think he's viable in low elo, not so much in high elo. Zilean, quite strong in any elo. He scales quite well, but his kit has not that much counterplay, so he has some counterplay, but not that much. And yeah, overall he's like a solid champion in any elo. If you like him, play him. Zyra, we go to probably a C tier mage support. Zyra is extremely strong against low elo players. The next patch is like a small buff for her. Why do I think she's so good in low elo? So, low elo player doesn't dodge her E. Low elo players don't know how to deal with her plants. And that's basically her kit. Her kit is her E and her plants. She's one of the lowest elo skewed champions. I put her in C tier mostly because I won 3 there. One of each class, but she might be like S tier, not as broken. Zyra generally has like the highest win rate in the game, highest win rate support in low elo, but she's also the most main champion in the game. Like that's a fact. Like by percentage, she's the most main. So yeah, there we have it. This is a tier list for support. It's not as divisive as the high elo. I don't think there are so many picks that are just bad in low elo. Having Lulu as like the worst support in game, yeah, maybe it's a bit rough, but I have avoided most picks that I just don't recommend for low elo. So it's not like I'm not putting Anivia in C tier because some low elo player might see like, oh, Anivia, it's pickable as support. Not really, just don't. If I'm trying to think someone who's weaker, like realistically, no, Lulu is one of the lowest win rate supports in the game, and that's just how it is. But yeah, there we have it. Check my other videos. I'm going to be making some guides next week. Follow me here, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Goodbye.